I will now call the June 6, 2016 at 6 p.m. City Council meeting to order. You notice a bunch of sixes there. If you would stand with me, observe a moment of silence, and then I will lead you in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. I want to welcome you to tonight's City Council meeting, and those that might watch the video at a later time. The next item is a consent agenda. Are there items that need to be pulled? Otherwise, I accept a motion for approval.
So moved, Your Honor.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Quibell?
Aye.
Councilman Levesey?
Aye.
Councilman Fowler?
Aye.
Councilman Carter?
Aye.
Councilman Edmondson?
Aye.
Councilman Culpepper?
Aye.
Mayor Ross?
Aye.
Carried unanimously.
Next, we have a public hearing on the Capital Improvement Program.
Mayor, the city has the following exhibit to enter into the record. City Council Information Form dated May 27th, 2016 from Deputy City Administrator Adam Norris with PowerPoint presentation slides for June 6, 2016 council meeting. Draft of proposed 2016-17 to 2020-21 Capital Improvements Program. Notice of public hearing published in the Examiner on May 21st, 2016, and proposed ordinance. This is all we have to offer for the record.
Thank you, Deputy City Administrator Adam Norris.
All right, thank you, sir. I will go through this presentation as quickly as I can. Please stop me if you have questions. I'm happy to stop and address any questions you have along the way here. The CIP, quick introduction, it's being submitted in accordance with the city's charter. The CIP Review Committee, as in years past, reviewed this on May 2nd. There were no additional comments received at that meeting. The Planning Commission was also provided a copy that was done on May 9th, the night of their meeting. This budget, the 5-year budget, is consistent with previous CIP budgets. The emphasis is on maintaining what we have and replacing mission-critical equipment. You will notice that the budget document is smaller than in years past as well, and that's because we removed the project sheets for the unfunded projects, so it's a little easier to manage. Here's an overview of the 5-year budget. Its totals with all projects, including unfunded capital needs, $107.1 million. The orange shows what we're not able to do right now. In total. This does not include the parks projects that were removed from the CIP in last year's budget process, pending the Parks and Open Space Master Plan that will be completed later this fall. Currently, we're meeting 59% of our maintenance needs, 60% of our equipment replacement needs, and 12% of our capital improvement needs. This shows what has been funded, proposed to be funded in the 5-year plan. The total budget's $34.2 million. This is about 32% of our total capital investment needs. Maintenance accounts for 71% of the CIP over the plan period. Equipment replacements 7% and capital improvements are 22%. I should point out that you'll see in the 16-17 capital improvements is much higher than in the other years, and that's because of the City Hall renovation project. New this year is the governing body strategic plan framework, which was adopted last year in August. So what we've done this year is any project we've assigned a goal area, one of the goal areas that you all set out to each of these projects. So as you can see, infrastructure, the funded and the unfunded needs have the highest balance. I'd also maybe point out that the Parks and Recreation goal funded is 0, and the needs are nearly 13 million right now. As we had a few new projects that we've added into the 5-year plan this year. If they're funded unless it's otherwise noted up here. Of course, the City Hall renovation project, design is underway with SFS right now for that project. The ST53 is a traffic signal at 7 Highway and South Avenue. This is in response to the additional traffic generation with the post office closure downtown. 2 new projects, SAN 19 and WA 17. These are water infrastructure deployment projects. These enable the city to deploy infrastructure on a strategic basis for maybe the intent to annex areas or for economic development purposes, such as work towards a shovel-ready site. It's anticipated that the money in these projects will not be spent in their entirety every year and would roll over and carry a balance over time, so we could do larger scale projects. Some of the changes over the 5-year plan, we've moved several to the funded list and deleted one project, ST41. STM08, I think, is worth highlighting. This would allow us to do a stormwater master plan, and I think it's worth pointing out because we often overlook this because it's underground and hidden from us. And so this plan would allow us to develop a comprehensive plan to look at water quality, flooding issues, address statutory requirements, as well as develop a long-range maintenance plan for our stormwater infrastructure. Now, going a little deeper into the budget, this is next year's fiscal year 16-17. As you can see, the different categories are broken out. CIP program, which includes the City Hall projects, about half our budget, with nearly half of the rest going to maintenance and a small amount going to equipment replacement. Last year's funding was 4.8 million. I'm sorry. So the growth really is because of the City Hall project, as well as the 2 utility infrastructure projects, which collectively account for $600,000. So we'll go into detail on each one of these here. This is the 16-17 maintenance program. As you can see, there's continued emphasis on maintenance of our transportation network, including so it'd be ST44, our sidewalk program, and ST06. It should be pointed out, though, that while we're making considerable investment here, it's not sufficient to hit our service level targets that we've established. We're working on right now an agreement with a firm to come in and do a pavement condition assessment on the city's transportation network, which would include our parking lots. And this would allow us to get a good assessment of the condition of all our pavement, our roadways, and then provide us with some recommendations on how to maintain our roads and funding level recommendations as well. Here's our capital improvements for next year. Again, the City Hall renovations, the bulk of this, with the 2 utility infrastructure projects carrying the other bulk of this. And then this is equipment replacement. This is about 6% of our budget again. So as I'm wrapping up here, these are some things, 5-year trends to think about, and some considerations. Our current resources are not sufficient to address all our needs. Right now, we're addressing about 1/3 of all our capital investment needs. As we defer maintenance each year, that gap continues to increase because it gets more expensive and harder to maintain what we have. And at some point, it becomes not feasible to maintain our infrastructure. We're going to have to replace it, which is far more expensive. Of course, our limitations and our restrictions have immediate and long-term impacts. to maintain what we have and meet our current service levels, as well as support growth, redevelopment, and development going forward, especially looking in the southern portion of the city. So I think the challenge really is going to be identifying long-term solutions to address these needs and these gaps. Lastly, so we published this in the public hearing in the paper on May 21st. This evening, the council you can adopt the draft CIP tonight if you wish. I think there's an ordinance in here allowing you to do so. With that, if you have any questions.
Are there any questions of Adam? I know 3 council members served on this capital improvements task force, or whatever you want to call it. So I don't refresh my memory. I know Councilman Culpepper, you did?
Yes, sir.
From District 3. And who was District 1?
I did.
That's you. Okay, and then you. Okay, well, thank you for your service. You know, putting together a document like this is not easy. It's a lot to consider. And thank you, Adam, for navigating this project. So there are no questions. We'll go to the public. We got two people out there in the public that's not staff. So anybody want to speak in favor of it? Jack?
Come on.
Wanda? Is there anybody want to speak in opposition to it? In opposition to it,
Sit down, Jack.
we'll close this public hearing. Didn't mean to put you on the spot, Jack, but, you know, seeing if you're paying attention. All right. So would anybody like to introduce it?
I'll introduce it, Your
All
Honor.
right.
First reading of Bill Number 4427, an ordinance adopting the City of Blue Springs Capital Improvements Program for fiscal years 2016 through 17 through 2020-21.
Move the bill be approved on its first reading and proceed with the second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign?
Second reading of Bill Number 4427, an ordinance adopting the City of Blue Springs Capital Improvements Program for fiscal years 2016-17 through 2020-21.
Move the bill be approved on its second reading and assign the appropriate ordinance number.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilman Levesey?
Aye.
Councilman Fowler?
Aye.
Councilman Carter?
Aye.
Councilman Edmondson?
Aye.
Councilman Culpepper?
Aye.
Councilman Quabell?
Aye.
Mayor Ross?
Aye.
Carried unanimously, given ordinance number 4600.
Next, we have introduction and reading of Bill 4428.
I'll introduce it, Your Honor.
Okay.
First reading of Bill Number 4428, an ordinance amending the 2015-16 annual budget of the City of Blue Springs, Missouri.
Move the bill be approved on its first reading and proceed with the second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign?
Second reading of Bill Number 4428, an ordinance amending the 2015-16 annual budget of the City of Blue Springs, Missouri.
Move the bill be approved on its second reading and assign the appropriate ordinance
Is there
number.
a second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Councilman Fowler?
Aye.
Councilman Carter?
Aye.
Councilman Edmondson?
Aye.
Councilman Culpepper?
Aye.
Councilman Quabell?
Aye.
Councilman Levesey?
Aye.
Mayor Ross?
Aye.
Carried unanimously, given ordinance number 4601.
Good. That brings us to mayoral announcements. There are 3 things I want to highlight. Number 1 is a Marine captain, Jeff Cuss, with the Blue Angels, who was a pilot, died in Tennessee, and most of you probably heard about that, and we certainly mourn his death and the work that he did. And from all the news account, that was his passion. He loved what he did. The other one is the world, I think, mourned the death of Muhammad Ali, who dealt with Parkinson's disease for 30-something years, and certainly was a figure that was well known throughout the world. And so his funeral will be next Friday. This next thing I share it with Eric. Our daughter from California, from Bakersfield, California, is here, and that's why the First Lady is not here. She came back in. She was just here during the swearing in. But she lives in Bakersfield, and Bakersfield is about 120 miles north of L.A. About a population of about 350,000 people, so it's not a small town. But it's better known for 2 country and western singers, Merle Haggard and Buck Owens. And if you go to Bakersfield, there is a Merle Haggard Road and there is a Buck Owens Boulevard. If you've ever been to Bakersfield. Their mayor, Harvey Hall, who has been the mayor 4 terms, decided not to run for 5th term. And Harvey didn't have much competition during his tenure because Harvey Hall owned the local EMS, And there are orange and white ambulances with Hall written on those ambulances in Kerr County. Matter of fact, the connection to Blue Springs is Louis Cox, who used to run the EMS program for the city of Blue Springs before we contracted with CJC, was hired by Harvey Hall to come run it in Bakersfield, California. And he ran it for a number of years. But this is what I'm going to share with you. By Harvey not running for re-election to a 5th term, 25 people filed for mayor. 25. So I guess they were just kind of waiting in the wings, just waiting for Harvey to retire so they could run for mayor. It's going to be interesting how that turns out. I guess you could probably win if you got a pretty large family. You can probably just win with your family members. So, but I'm going to watch that one because I did know Harvey. Had an opportunity to meet him in some of my trips to Bakersfield. That brings me to Thoughts to Ponder. Tonight comes from George Bernard Shaw. And I quote, "No man who is occupied in doing a very difficult thing and doing it very well ever loses his self-respect," end quote. Now I'm going to go to our city attorney for a motion for someone to so move.
Thank you, Mayor. The proper motion at this time would be to move that this body go into a closed session pursuant to Section 610.021, subparagraph 2, revised statutes of Missouri, for the purpose of having discussions regarding real estate transactions, that any records or votes taken remain closed, and that this body stand adjourned at the end of such session.
So moved.
There's a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Carter?
Aye.
Councilman Edmondson?
Aye.
Councilman Culpepper?
Aye.
Councilman Quabell?
Aye.
Councilman Levesey?
Aye.
Councilman Fowler?
Aye.
Mayor Ross?
Aye.
Carried unanimously.
Before we go into executive session, we'll go to visitors. I don't have a visitor's appearance form from Mrs. Corbell or Jack. So I guess we will allow our visitors to be excused that wish to be, and we'll go into executive session.